Welcome to Justice Throne. We appreciate all our viewers worldwide. Kindly tell us in the comments where you are watching from. We would like to hear from you.
They thought it'd be funny, put the blind poor kid on stage, sit him at the piano, and watch him fumble in front of the whole school. But what came out of his fingers wasn't a joke. It was pain. It was truth. It was everything this town tried to bury. And the next morning, the governor pulled up with cameras rolling, not to save face, but to let the whole damn state hear what silence sounds like when it fights back. The gym smelled like floor wax, sweat, and cheap anxiety. Folding chairs screeched against the tile. Mic feedback stabbed the air. Somebody's mama was yelling about the lighting being unflattering. Phones were already up, thumbs twitching, ready to record the next viral moment. It wasn't a talent show. It was blood sport with better lighting. And right in the middle of it all was him, Zion Marshall, 13, blind, wearing a hoodie too big and shoes too small. Moved like he didn't want to take up space, like the world had already told him not to. Yo, they really gone let him go up there? Someone whispered loud enough to be heard. A cluster of kids laughed. And behind the curtain, a white boy with a smug grin nudged his friend. Told you he'd do it. He don't even know they making fun of him. The MC cleared her throat, that fake cheer voice cracking under the gym lights. And next up, Zion Marshall, performing on piano, polite claps, sarcastic whistles, one deep, hollow silence. Zion walked out slow, feeling with his feet. His cane tapped once, twice, then folded up. The gym doors groaned shut behind him. His hand skimmed the edge of the grand piano, cheap, school-issued, chipped wood, dull keys. He sat. The bench creaked. It sounded louder than anything else in that room. Somewhere in the bleachers, a girl whispered, "Ain't no way." Another voice, "Watch, he gon' just sit there looking stupid." He didn't speak, didn't flinch, didn't smile. His fingers hovered over the keys. Still, silent. Then, he touched one note, soft, like a question. Then another, and another. And then something happened that nobody expected. The whole damn gym went quiet. Not polite quiet, not fake respect quiet, but the kind of silence that creeps up your neck and makes you forget how to breathe. Because what came out of that piano wasn't a song. It was a cry, a fight, a memory, a confession wrapped in melody. The music didn't sound trained. It sounded lived, like someone dragging a soul across broken glass. It rose, it fell, it begged, and it told the truth in a way nobody in that room ever had. One teacher in the back dropped her pen. The janitor froze mid-mop. Principal Dunham lowered his phone and muttered, "God!" And the kid who rigged the whole joke, Mason Tucker, sank lower in his chair, sweat pooling under his varsity jacket. This was supposed to be funny. This was supposed to go viral for laughs. But now, they were all witnesses to something they couldn't mock. Something raw, something holy. And then, after 3 minutes of unraveling his soul, Zion stopped. Just like that, his hands fell to his lap. His head stayed bowed. No bow, no smile, just that stillness again. And the gym sat in it, awkward, stunned, wrecked by something they couldn't name, until someone finally clapped. Then another. Then the whole place was on its feet. But Zion didn't move, didn't react, because that music wasn't for them. It wasn't a performance. It was survival. After the show, nobody knew what to say to him. Kids filed out with their heads down. Teachers exchanged quiet glances. And Zion? He just sat on the bleacher steps, holding his cane in both hands like it was the only thing keeping him anchored to the earth. Ms. Dorsey, the drama teacher, crouched beside him. Her voice cracked. "Zion, that was—" He didn't let her finish. "Do they still think it's funny?" She didn't answer. Didn't have to. By 9 p.m., the clip had 800K views on Twitter. By midnight, the hashtags started trending. Hashtag they set him up. Hashtag Zion did not come to play. Hashtag play that silence. The next morning came with fog in the air and silence across the parking lot. And then, 3 black SUVs rolled in like a funeral procession with purpose. The front doors swung open. Out stepped Governor Elijah Brooks. Tall, black, bald, presidential like a warning. Gray overcoat, gloves, no smile. He didn't walk. He arrived. And behind him, cameras, security, and the heat of reckoning. He didn't ask to meet the principal. Didn't shake a single hand. He looked the media in the face and said one thing. "Where's the boy who played the silence?" And suddenly, the whole school wasn't laughing anymore. Zion sat in the nurse's office. Not because he was sick, but because the principal told him to wait here just a moment. It was quiet in there. Too quiet. Sterile air. Old bandage smell. The nurse had already left for lunch. So it was just him, sitting on that cracked vinyl cot, cane across his lap, fingers twitching in small, invisible rhythms only he could hear. He didn't know about the SUVs. He didn't know the governor had arrived. He didn't know the whole front office was in meltdown. But he did feel something shift in the air, like the hallway outside had stopped breathing. Downstairs, Principal Dunham was sweating through his collar. The governor was standing in the center of the front lobby like he owned the building. Not angry, not smiling, just still. People moved around him like he was too sacred to touch. Ms. Dorsey wrung her hands. "Governor Brooks, sir, if we'd had notice." "You did," he said calmly. "The moment you let them set that boy up on stage like a damn circus act, you had notice." A reporter leaned in. "Governor, what do you plan to do about the school's failure to?" He didn't answer. He turned to a security officer instead. "Bring him to the auditorium." Zion's name echoed through the intercom. Not a request, a summons. And when he heard it, * Zion Marshall, please report to the auditorium. * He froze. He stood slowly, cane tapping the tile as he made his way through the silent hallway. Classroom doors were cracked open. Eyes peered out. Phones recorded from half-open lockers. Everyone already knew. Everyone but him. The auditorium doors stood open. The place was packed. News cameras. Teachers. Students half in uniform, half in awe. Zion stepped in and the noise died on contact. There he was, Governor Brooks, standing beside the piano like it was sacred ground. He walked toward Zion slowly, deliberately, like he was approaching a prophet. Then he knelt, and whispered, just loud enough for the microphones to catch it. "You made them listen." Zion's lips parted, confused. I didn't mean to. I was just playing." "You weren't just playing. You were speaking, through sound, and pain, and all the silence they fed you." Zion's fingers clenched around his cane. His throat tightened. "They wanted me to mess up." "I know," the governor said. "But you didn't." He stood, turned to the crowd. "You rose." Gasps. Phones clicking. Mason, still in the third row, shrank deeper in his seat. His face was pale now, sweat on his brow. Suddenly, it wasn't just a joke anymore. It was evidence. Governor Brooks raised a hand. The room fell into reverent quiet. Zion Marshall is not a punchline. He's a prodigy. And tonight he will play again at the governor's ball. For the press. For the city. For the state. And for every kid who's ever been silenced because of what they didn't have or what they did. The crowd erupted. Zion didn't smile. Didn't cry. He just stood there, shaking. Ms. Dorsey rushed to him, hands on his shoulders, whispering, "Zion, you're okay. You're okay. Breathe." But he wasn't, because for the first time in his life, the entire room was looking at him, not through him, at him. And he didn't know if that was a blessing or a trap. From the corner of the auditorium, one teacher, a white woman named Ms. Rylance, leaned over to Principal Dunham and muttered, "This is going to be a disaster." Dunham looked like he was already halfway to one. "We need to get ahead of this. Now." But it was too late, because the governor wasn't done. He pointed to the students in the front row. "Who here thought it was funny?" he asked. Silence. No one raised their hand. He walked forward. "No? So nobody rigged the sign-up sheet? Nobody told him to play as a joke?" Eyes dropped. Phones dropped. He kept going. Funny how your courage disappears when the cameras show up. Then he looked straight at Mason. Stand up. Mason didn't move. His friends shifted. One of them whispered, "Just do it, bro." And Mason slowly rose to his feet. Face white, mouth dry. Governor Brooks stared him down. Say his name. Mason blinked. What? Say his name. Zion. Louder. Zion Marshall. Now apologize. The boy looked like he might vomit. But he did it. I'm sorry, Zion. Zion's lip twitched. He turned his head slightly toward the voice. Sorry for what? Mason hesitated. The governor snapped. Say what you did. And the whole room waited. Mason swallowed hard. His voice cracked. I signed him up as a joke. I told everyone it'd be funny. I didn't think. Governor Brooks cut him off. No, you didn't think. That's the problem. Silence swallowed the room again. The kind of silence that feels like judgment. Zion stood still, face unreadable. His fingers twitched slightly against the worn handle of his cane. You could tell he was listening, feeling every breath, every lie in the room. But when he spoke, his voice was flat. You wanted to laugh at me. Mason looked at the floor. Yeah. You wanted me to look stupid. Yeah. And what do I look like now? Mason didn't answer. He didn't have to. His red face said everything. Governor Brooks let the moment stretch until it hurt. Then slowly he turned to the crowd. I want every student in this auditorium to understand something. Zion is not your punchline. He is not your redemption arc. He is not your guilt project. He is a child. And today he taught all of you how to listen. A few teachers clapped. A few more followed. But it wasn't celebration. It was surrender. The governor faced Zion again. I want you to come with me. Today. Now. My team's outside. We'll get your mother, you'll have security. You'll play again tonight. Not to prove anything. But because you deserve to be heard. Zion opened his mouth. Then stopped. He seemed to be battling something deep in his chest. A kind of terror. Not fear of the governor. But fear of being seen. Really seen. I don't know if I can, he said softly. Then let me ask you this, Governor Brooks replied, stepping closer. What if you don't? What if the next blind kid with a gift hears your silence and thinks he should stay silent too? Zion didn't answer. Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about moving anyway. The boy's hands slowly unclenched from his cane. He took a shaky breath, then nodded. Just once. That was enough. Ms. Dorsey hugged him tight. You are something so special, baby. Don't ever forget that. They began moving toward the exit. The governor's team followed in a quiet swarm. Camera crews gently parted. Students moved aside like the hallway was holy ground. But behind them, Mason slumped back into his seat. And for the first time, he cried. Not out of guilt, but shame. Backstage, Principal Dunham tried to save face. Governor, if there's anything our school can do. The governor didn't stop walking. Start by hiring staff who protect your students, not entertain their bullies. Ms. Rylance muttered. This is political theater. The governor stopped, turned back to her slowly. Then maybe you should sit in the front row, because you're clearly missing the plot. Outside, the air was colder, more real. 3 black SUVs idled quietly. Zion's mother stood beside one, confused, eyes wide with disbelief. She wore a fraying coat and hospital scrubs. Her name tag said Trina Marshall, CNA. Her voice shook as she whispered, Zion, what's going on? The boy reached out, found her hand, and held it. Ma, I gotta go play something. She stared at him, then at the governor, then back at her son. And in that silence between them, something passed. A knowing, a surrender, proud ache. She nodded. Then let's go. As they climbed into the SUV, news crews pressed close, cameras flashing, voices shouting over each other. Zion, how did it feel to go viral overnight? Governor Brooks, are you endorsing music education reform? Mrs. Marshall, did you know your son could do that? But inside the vehicle, it was quiet. Zion sat between his mother and the governor, his fingers resting gently in his lap. The motorcade pulled away, and for the first time since he could remember, Zion wasn't walking blind into the world. He was being driven forward, escorted, seen. And behind them, back in that gym, Mason sat in a hallway chair outside the office. Principal Dunham loomed over him. "You understand there will be consequences." Mason nodded slowly, but nothing Dunham could say would be worse than what he already felt. Because once you hear truth that raw, you don't forget it, and you don't escape it. The governor's SUV pulled up to the Capitol Music Hall, all gleaming glass and velvet ropes. Flashbulbs sparked like lightning. Reporters swarmed the barricades, shouting Zion's name like it belonged to a legend. Not a boy who used to eat alone in the cafeteria. He sat in the back seat, silent. His fingers drummed against his knee. Not in rhythm, but in code. Morse for panic. Trina leaned closer. "You sure you're okay, baby?" He didn't answer right away. Then, barely a whisper, "What if I mess up this time?" Governor Brooks turned in his seat. "Then you mess up, and they'll still be watching, still be listening, because you've already changed the room just by walking into it." Zion nodded slowly, but his cane was trembling. Inside the hall, everything was too grand, too polished. Floors that felt like mirrors, chandeliers that threatened to rain diamonds. The governor's staff walked with purpose. Trina stayed close to Zion's side, her scrub shoes squeaking awkwardly on the marble. She didn't care who stared. She wasn't here to impress. She was here to protect. Backstage, a well-dressed woman with 2 white teeth and a clipboard met them. "Hi, Zion. I'm Camille. I'll be your media handler for tonight." Zion didn't smile. "What's that mean?" "It means I help shape your story," she chirped. Trina's eyes narrowed. "His story doesn't need shaping." Camille's grin froze for a second. "Of course, just here to help." She was already whispering into her earpiece, already spinning something. They led Zion to a private dressing room, more like a mini-suite with a black grand piano in the corner. It gleamed like oil in candlelight. Zion walked over and placed his fingers on the keys, then snatched them back like they'd burned him. The room fell still. He stood there, breathing hard. Trina reached for him. "What is it, baby?" He turned his face toward her, voice sharp. "I don't know what to play." Brooks stepped in. "Play what you feel." "I don't feel anything right now. I feel like a show." "No," Trina said. "You're not a show. You're a storm. They just don't know it yet." Zion sat slowly, closed his eyes, let his fingers hover. And then, without warning, he slammed both hands down. Discord. Anger. It wasn't music, it was a scream. Camille rushed in. "Zion. Sweetie. Let's not freak out." "Don't call me that," he snapped. Everyone froze. His voice cracked. "Y'all keep putting me on stages like I'm supposed to save something. But where were y'all when I was walking down hallways with people laughing behind me? Where were y'all when I was alone?" Trina's heart shattered. Governor Brooks didn't flinch. "We were late, but we're here now." Zion looked at him, breathing hard, and then softer. "Don't clap for me if you wouldn't have sat with me." No one spoke. Camille's voice broke the silence. Nervous. "He's due on stage in 20 minutes. Zion stood. "Then let's go." He walked to the stage entrance slowly, cane tapping, tapping. Then he stopped. "Ma." Trina stepped beside him. "If I mess up, you won't look away, right?" She swallowed. "Never." Outside the curtains, the crowd murmured. Governors, senators, celebrities, whispers of, "Is that him? The boy from the video?" The MC announced his name, and Zion stepped out, blind, nervous, furious, radiant, into the light. The spotlight hit his face like heat. Zion didn't flinch. The auditorium hushed. Hundreds of powerful people sat in rows of velvet seats, holding champagne flutes and expectations. Some had tears already pooling. Not for him, for the idea of him, the prodigy, the miracle, the symbol. But Zion wasn't anyone's miracle. He was just a boy. He walked slowly to the piano, cane tapping softly against the polished wood. A staff member reached out to guide him. He shook his head. He knew where he was now. He found the bench. Saturday. Exhaled. Then nothing. The audience leaned in. Was something wrong? He placed his hands above the keys but didn't press down. For 5 long seconds, silence hung like a wire. Then he spoke, into the mic no one expected him to use. "I was supposed to play for you," he said quietly. "But before I do, I need to ask something." His voice echoed through the golden chamber. "Where were you when I was invisible?" The room froze. "Where were you when I walked into class and people snickered and nobody stopped them? Where were you when I sat alone at lunch and your sons and daughters made me feel like nothing?" Camera's word. "I didn't become special yesterday. I've been special. But it took me going viral for you to notice." A few people shifted uncomfortably. One woman tried to clap. It died in her hands. "I'll play for you, not because you asked, but because there's a little boy watching this right now who's blind like me, and he needs to know he's not broken." He turned his face slightly toward the wings. "Ma, you there?" Her voice, cracked but steady. "Always, baby." Zion smiled. Not for the crowd. For her. Then his fingers dropped onto the keys. Soft at first, like a whisper between notes. The melody built slow, aching, full of breath and silence. Then it swelled. Full-bodied chords. Wounds turning into wings. It wasn't a performance. It was a confession. Somewhere near the back, Governor Brooks removed his glasses and wiped his eyes. Camille stepped outside to take a call, but never came back in. And on the 3rd row, a white boy named Mason sat with his mother, who gripped his wrist and whispered, "Listen, really listen." Zion's hands moved like they were remembering something ancient. An old pain turned into something holy. He didn't hit every note perfect, but he didn't need to. The room wasn't hearing a song. They were hearing a life. When the last note fell, he didn't stand. He just sat there, head bowed, breathing heavy. Then, silence. And then, the crowd rose, not with wild cheers, with reverence. Slow, quiet, respectful. They clapped not for a viral boy, but for a human being. Backstage, Trina covered her mouth, sobbing. Her son didn't just play music. He told the world he mattered. Governor Brooks walked onto the stage, hand extended. Zion stood, took it. They raised their hands together, not as politician and prodigy, but as 2 black souls who knew the cost of being ignored. And in that moment, under chandeliers and bright lights, Zion wasn't a blind boy anymore. He was a beacon. Sometimes the most powerful performances aren't about perfection. They're about truth. And Zion Marshall told the truth with every note he played. From being mocked at a school talent show to standing ovations at the governor's ball. This wasn't a story about pity. It was a story about power, quiet, steady, and real. And now we want to hear from you. Drop a comment. What part of Zion's story hit you the hardest? What would you say to a kid like Zion if he sat next to you at lunch? If the story moved you, like it, share it, and make sure to subscribe to Justice Throne for more real feel, slow burn stories that speak truth to power. Because every voice deserves to be heard, especially the quiet ones.